fools on the hill. My people are no fools on the hill. You must let my people go, so we can rule from Cape to Cairo. You must free my people's hands, so we can rule our purpose land. I wanna know who owns the land. Who wanna know who owns the land? Okay, now listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I say, we wanna know who owns the land. I wanna know who owns the land. Aslan, hey, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan. It must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I said, so what you want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land.
Ambazonia wants to know who owns the land. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to ABC Amba Television Live. We are coming to you as usual from the great state of Texas, precisely here in Houston, the city of Houston. Thank you for joining the broadcast tonight. I'd like to welcome all of you who are tuning in from Ground Zero, where the reaction, the fight for the soul of Ambazonia is taking place. And of course, those of you on Ground One, where we have hundreds of thousands of Ambazonian refugees, we want to welcome you here at ABC. We also like to thank all of you in the diaspora who are tuning in from all of Africa, from all of Europe, including the United Kingdom, from all of America, the United States, including Canada, and of course, not forgetting South America, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, that is Mexico, I mean. The Spanish pronounce it as Mexico, and the English pronounce it Mexico. Welcome all of you, and of course I can't forget all of you who are tuning in from China and the rest of Asia. Thank you for tuning in. This is not going to be a long broadcast. I have a few things to bring to you, but also very, very important, ladies and gentlemen, is the draft. The draft that is coming up on Saturday, talking about the draft for Bui Warriors. I don't want to say for Bui. I would say for Bui Warriors because they are the reason Bui is drafting. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for joining me. God bless you all. I want to believe we're going to have a very, very exciting broadcast tonight. Now, you must have seen the poster that we circulated out there yesterday talking about what they never told you, the revelations they never told you about the CDC. What I'm about to bring to you tonight is very revealing. And it is one of the reasons the CDC, in fact, and I mean the Cameroon, as I call it, Cameroon Development Corporation. The CDC is one of the reasons for which we fight in Ambazonia. And I hope that those who take decisions in Yaoundé, they listen to me. We've talked about our educational system here. We've talked about our legal system here. We've talked about Sonara. We've talked about other institutions in the southern Cameroons that were decimated by the French Cameroon government. Paul Biya made it very, very clear in 2019 in Paris that the goal, the mission of French Cameroon since our coming together was always to integrate Ambazonia, the southern Cameroons, to become part of one and indivisible Cameroon. And in doing so, ladies and gentlemen, one of the ways they wanted to achieve that was to destroy every symbolic institution that represented Anglo-Saxonism in the southern Cameroons. And so, you are going to hear from me today the destruction of the Cameroon Bank. You are going to also hear about the destruction, of course, of the CDC. But we also remember companies like Nanga Companies Limited, the National Produce Marketing Board. Do you remember the famous Kamak Bamenda, Kamak Kumba? All these teams were owned by corporations in the southern Cameroons. You never heard about a PWD. If you were growing up in my time in the early 80s as a teenager, growing up, going from living at Z, where I was born, going down to Menji, I will always meet these, our parents on the road, digging ground, planting stones to do some road repairs, rehabilitation. They were there with their caterpillars, digging the road, planting stones where there were potholes. Those were permanently employed by PWD, and their job was to take care, maintain our roads. What happened to PWD? Of course, nobody hears anything about it. La République du Cameroon took it over and destroyed it. Of course, you don't hear anything about WADA in Womb. You don't hear anything about it. Recently, after destroying UNVDA, they sold it to the Chinese. And so you can talk about PowerCam, you can talk about Ombe, you can talk about just so many assets belonging, identifying with Anglo-Saxonism in Ambazonia that French Cameroon took over in their policy of integration and destroy. In the place of all these institutions, they imported civil law into Ambazonia. They brought in their educational system and messed up with the General Certificate of Education examinations. You see what is happening with the board. The board is now appointed from Yaoundé instead of a thing of the teachers' union, ladies and gentlemen. La République du Cameroon has caused a lot of harm. And again, these are the reasons we are in this world today. And I urge you to please, for those of you watching by way of the social media, to please go ahead, hit your share button. Hit your share button. Let us quickly populate this platform as I bring you these revelations about the CDC. I will also be answering the question very, very recently. We heard about talks in La République du Cameroon about their parliament finally discussing the Ambazonian struggle or conflict in their parliament. The question, does La République du Cameroon has any right, any legitimacy to discuss issues concerning Ambazonia in their parliament? Of course, I want to play a clip here. Give me a moment here, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to play a clip here from Joseph Weber. This was Joseph Weber in those days, literally begging La République du Cameroon, begging that damn parliament to talk about this conflict, and they denied him. He was pleading to be listened to be heard. In that parliament, they refused to listen to him when the time was still there. Today, they think they can come back 5 years after and talk about a country, a people who are gone. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this.
Exactly for the same reason, Mr. Speaker, that you are talking up there. If you are to shut the mouths of the members of parliament so that they do not talk about what has to do with their people, I am telling you, you will need something else other than just this. Because I am standing here for representing my people properly, and someone signs that I should be arrested, and you did not cover me. You did not cover me. I wrote 2 letters to you telling you that there is an order on my head, and if I am to come here and cannot talk on behalf of my people, there is no way, Mr. Speaker, please. You cannot shut down the mouths of the people who represent their people. You cannot do it. Where else can we say these things? Where else? Are you telling us to form another assembly? Then you tell us. Do we belong to this country? If we belong to this country, Mr. Speaker, you will hear me out. You will listen to me. There has been, I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, please, with all due respect, I have been chased through the bushes for the past 3 months. I cannot come here and you tell me that I should be discussing the Economic and Social Council, our children out of school, our lawyers in jail, and all that is happening in West Cameroon. It means nothing to you. Where in your standing orders, Mr. Speaker, where in your standing orders do you have space for us to discuss the issues that have to do with the people of West Cameroon? You tell me, then I'll go and sit down. Because you don't seem to have an agenda for us. You don't seem to have it. So what are we supposed to do? It is also part of the humiliation. Mr. Speaker, yeah, I am now telling you that the person who ordered for my arrest, tell him I am here. He can come and take me from this National Assembly. And the people of West Cameroon would know that they don't belong here. I am being frank with you. The representatives of the people have the power to say it as it is.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was Honorable Weaver there, literally pleading in that parliament, so-called, to be heard. French Cameroon Parliament for 5 years would not table this conflict in their conference, and today they are discussing talking about the conflict, discussing the conflict in their parliament. I am going to explain to them why they no longer have any legitimacy to discuss Ambazonia in that damn house. If they really meant to discuss Ambazonia, I think Honorable Weber provided them with such a great opportunity to do so. But they would not even want him to say a word, mention, not even Ambazonia. They won't even want him to mention the word West Cameroon or the Southern Cameroons. They became too allergic to those 2 words, West Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons, of course, not even to mention Ambazonia. No, they couldn't stand it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stay put. For those of you watching again or by way of social media, please go ahead and hit your share button. Go ahead and hit your share button. Now, before I get to this presentation, I want to remind every Ambazonian out there, especially if you are in the diaspora, we have dedicated this week for Buoy Draft, talking about drafting for Buoy warriors, fellow Ambazonians. This is the moment. La République du Cameroon authorities are watching. The international community is watching. Last year, around this same time, we drafted a little over $1.4 or $1.5 million to prosecute this war. Of course, all of that money did not come in. But at least we have it on record as having drafted that much last year. When we started it, the Republic of Cameroon was out there trying to monitor to see if after my trip to Boya, they can raise a dime. All of you out there, surprise them. You all surprised them by drafting that much last year. This time, we have even a bigger challenge. All of you are witnesses to what is going on ground zero. From every county in Ambazonia, we are seeing an upsurge, a surge, battle after battle against French Cameroon soldiers. And we are actually having an upper hand upon those French Cameroon soldiers. You listened to Dieudonné Esomba a few days ago saying, in every week, Ambazonian restoration forces are killing at least 24 French Cameroon troops. There is an audio that somebody sent to me. I wish I could have that audio. I wish I had it ready. Now, in that audio, a French Cameroon soldier is lamenting. He wish he had there is a way for him to escape. He is literally begging where he can drop his gun and escape with the help of somebody. I wish I had that audio prepared, but unfortunately, that audio clip is not ready for me to play to you. But listen, French Cameroon will never win us in this war. They are watching us in this 2021 draft to see how much we can raise this time. And beginning this weekend with Bui Warriors or Bui County, please, last year Bui drafted, I think, just a little over 80,000. Just a little over 80,000. I'm not sure how much they were able to redeem out of that amount. But this year, we are all witnesses to what is going on in Bui with the Bui Warriors. I mentioned here last Monday that in this war, at the moment, there are 3 counties that have stood out. You have Bui, you have Lebielem, you have Ngoke Twinsia, and then you get others can follow. Others can follow. I think Bui is number 1. Bui is number 1. The Bui Warriors, they are in battle almost every day. There is no day you wake up in the morning without hearing something happening in Bui. Fellow Ambazonians, I am saying this to say that every one of us have risen this weekend, this Saturday, to show up at the drive to support Bui Warriors. Yes, every Ambazonian out there. Do not say I am not drafting, because I have heard some people said, I'm not drafting for my county because I don't see what they are doing. Yeah, if you don't want to draft for your county, but if you can draft for Bui, you have reason at least to do so, because Bui has proven they are in this war 110%, ladies and gentlemen, 110%. The result of their work is out there with little money. Let me say something here. This war takes just the will, the courage, and the determination to prosecute, because Bui had virtually nothing. I have not seen Bui raising extra funds after the 2020 draft, but on a daily basis, we've not seen them running out of ammo. No, they are at the war front. On a daily basis, we see the images, we see the footages. This is the moment for every one of us, ladies and gentlemen, to support Bui. I am joined with Dr. Yaya Fournier. Dr. Yaya Fournier is one of the executives out there for the Bui County, and she will be sharing with us about the preparedness of Bui County and, of course, the Bui Warriors for this draft. Dr. Yaya, it's a pleasure to have you, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Secretary. I can
Thank
hear
you.
you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. It's a pleasure to have
Thanks,
you.
Secretary, for having me on the show. And thank you, as usual. It's a pleasure to be connected to the rest of Ambazonia. Greetings to Ground Zero, especially to our brave restoration forces. We hail you, we salute you. You're the reason why we're here. And we're ready to give it even a much bigger shot than last year, because you pay the ultimate price with your lives. We have no excuse. We absolutely have no reason to complain, so we must do it. Yes.
Wonderful,
Greetings, everybody.
wonderful. I think, Dr. Yaya, many people out there, I guess they really would love to know, how did the Bui warriors make it to where they are today, fighting every day, almost every day, since about, I would say about 6 months ago? How have they been coping financially? I mean, redeeming their armor. How have you guys been doing it in Bui?
Well, Secretary Chris, I hope I'm the best person to answer this question. I wish our defense chair was here, but for reasons beyond his control, he can't make it. Well, I think what I can really say from the experience being part of this whole struggle is the will, like you said, the will, the reason for why we're in this cause, and it's basically a true cause. It is legal, it is just, it is even divine. And we've known, and if you played a clip of Honorable Weber, we know that the Bui people, they are warring tribe. I mean, they are resilient people, and we have seen this over the different revolutions that the country has, or the former country, or the former union has actually experienced. The people of Bui, even during the days when multipartism started in Cameroon, then Cameroon, Bui actually paid a very high price. And even historically, we have iconic figures who have actually played a very central role in the freedom of our people. So this is not new. I think it's something genetic. And but what I can say over the years that has actually surprised everybody, it is not the amount of money. It is not the size. Actually, it's not even the numbers. It is about the what do you call that? The critical mass, because really that is what has held Bowie County moving. Truly, we're not talking about big numbers, but that's not to say we are not encouraging these numbers. That's why we're here today, to plead to the rest of our brothers and sisters who are still sitting on the fence. They should ask themselves the question, why we have elderly people who have had a good life. They have every reason to sit and just have a good wine, but they still take their time to educate the young population, to educate the young people about why this cause is important to fight till the end. So they should ask themselves this question: why would an old man not sit and just enjoy the rest of his days with his wife? He puts everything into this. There's a reason for this, and because the foundation is based on truth. And so the new age is now, we get very comfortable with ourselves, with the situation. But this is something nobody asked for. I mean, we're all living our lives, and this made us. And it is just a divine call that we must complete. So we're reaching out to everybody. First of all the sons and daughters of Bowie, stand up and defend the genes of Bowie. We are not a people who shy away. We are people who stand for truth and justice. History has had this written down. So why do we want to change this legacy? So we're reaching out and pleading to everybody. If you think war is a bad thing, and I just want to remind you, we do not start this war. We are actually defending ourselves. Then contribute for the humanitarian help, because the enemy, La Republique, is attacking us every blessed day. If you're from Bowie and you haven't lost a brother, a sister, a cousin, a relative, then you must count yourself very lucky. And ask yourself, what did this old woman do? What did that baby do? What did the young guy do who was just walking and was shot in the head? and you expect our boys to sit and not defend their people, it is not right. We have to defend ourselves. That's a basic human right. So please, if you're still having this false conflict in your mind about you funding a war, think about it this way. You're being attacked by somebody. It is your right to actually defend the vulnerable, defending your child, your mom, your brother, your sister who cannot run. So please get on board, contribute through your county, support the humanitarian cause because they're killing us every day. And so we have lots and loads of sick people, wounded people who are dying or languishing in hospitals. They cannot pay their bills. So if you don't want anything to do with self-defense, then please put your money into the humanitarian cause, which is a big, big disaster. Thanks, Secretary. I hope that helps.
Setting out for this drive, I'm referring to Bui, of course, now, setting out for this 2021 drive, what are the goals for the Bui County? I know you, as I said earlier, you raised a little over $80,000 last year. I don't know how much was redeemed out of that, but we would like to know what your goals are this year, 2021.
Well, Secretary Chris, I don't know whether the numbers really matter. I think it's what we deliver. And just point of correction, we actually raised about half of what you mentioned. Bowie County was one of the first counties that drafted. We were very unprepared. And at the time, things were very shaky in Bowie County. And so I think we were one of the least amounts. We are those who came up with one of the least amounts. And yet, we see the delivery of the restoration forces. And this is to say that, yes, the draft, of course, is important, but it is not just that. The draft, we are taxed. The draft, what is a war draft, actually, for people who don't or are not versed with the terminology? It is actually our own tax, the civilians who are not on the war front, who are not fighting, our own tax, towards this freedom cause. That's all. I mean, talking about $1,000 in a year. So we're pretty much talking about less than $100 a month, right? And how can we compare this with the lives of these young men who have given up their pleasure, their joy? They could be somewhere having fun with their wives or women or girlfriends, but they have sacrificed their lives for a cause that is going to benefit most of us. Some of them might not even live to see it. God bless them. Because they might die. A lot of them die on the way. So what is less than $100 to actually contribute? So what I'm trying to say is the draft alone did not solve Bui's problem. We have people who consistently sacrifice and contribute on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, ad hoc basis. When we have those distress calls that La Republique is invading our territory with continuous trucks and armored cars, people just out of benevolence, they keep donating consistently. So beyond the draft, the county members, we have to keep on going because we cannot fail those who have put their lives on the line. We have the comfort of being in a house, in a roof, covered by a roof, having food, having excess. But these people are in the cold. Sometimes they don't have food. They eat rice without meat, without soup, without oil. Sometimes they just need salt. So think about it. It's not just $1,000. When we talk about it, people feel like this is so much. $1,000 divided by 12 gives you less than $100 a month. Is that worth somebody's life? That cannot buy a life. So please, let us put things in context. The draft is a sign, it's a public sign, it's a symbolic sign, but it's not all. You have problems that are coming up on a daily basis, and we address them in Bowie County by members just donating, and we also count and depend so much on our friends and lovers of Bowie, and of course that's the entire Ambazonia. We really want to use this opportunity to thank you for the spirit of patriotism, because this is telling the world that even though we are 13 counties, we are one Ambazonia. And that goes to counter the false argument that goes about saying that the county system is tribalistic. We have had so much support from people outside Bowie County, and for that we're very grateful.
Yeah, please. All right. You mentioned something that really touches to the heart of what this draft is all about, and it is something that I really doubt. I really have my doubts whether Ambazonians out there really have an insight as to what goes on ground zero with these fighters. Now, I am saying this because you all guys know that my junior brother is out there on the battlefront, and I have seen photograph upon photograph coming from them, seeing the places they passed the night on. They were attacked sometime, I think September last year. They were attacked. No, that was sometime early 2020. And then they were camping in the home, somebody's house. Then, when they were attacked by La République du Cameroon, they realized that if they keep on using those homes, not just that one, but any house, it would be easy, very easy for La République du Cameroon to come surround that house and pick them away or kill them. And so they decided they can no longer sleep in any house. So they will go to the bush, to any location, just set up a little a shed that covers their head and prevent rain, and build some suspending beds and sleep there with all the mosquitoes, with all the cold or the heat, and they have been doing this for the past 4 years. This is what these fighters are going through in the bushes. And I really doubt whether Ambazonians understand this, because I think if they do, no Ambazonian will be hesitating, especially at this hour, to support these fighters on the ground. They don't know what to eat. They don't know what they're going to eat the next day, because they are depending on the availability of food. They cannot walk to the market, especially again, like in the Libya, where there is no market, nothing goes on there. Maybe in Bowie there are markets here and there where they can maybe sneak out and buy something. Some of the places don't have markets. So this is what these boys in the bushes are going through. And I really want to wish that every Ambazonian comes out and appreciate the sacrifices the money will give. Even if you give $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, I'm telling you, it's not enough. You cannot equate that to the sacrifice that these boys have paid out there for the past 5 years, sleeping in the bush, waking up in the morning, as you said, boiling cocoyams and eating with red oil, boiling rice and eating, I don't know with what, eating white rice, sometimes without soup, drinking gari. This is the type of life they are living in the bushes. This is the more reason I really think every Ambazonian, unless you are really cruel and you are unappreciative, this is the reason you should come out on Saturday and support Bowie warriors. Now, Dr. Yaya, we're going to be joined soon by phone with the chairman of Bowie County, Shea Yimbo. But before he joins, what special appeal will you make out there to the Ambazonian, especially the Bowie community? What special appeal will you make to them?
Again, Secretary Chris, I think all I really have to say is really look down, seek, search your consciences and ask the right questions, and really be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, why would a young man choose to take the difficult path of fighting and being killed? And they've seen their friends being killed, they've seen their brothers being killed, and yet they're resilient on carrying on. It is because it is a just cause. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. It's not, because people are losing their businesses, losing their lives, losing the comfort, of just, being used to what they used to. But what we are used to, is that good enough? That is the question. That is not good enough, because that is slavery, and we've been entangled in that for more than half a century, and we shouldn't be. A lot of us are out here in the West, in the diaspora. Why did we leave that place to come to the West if everything is fine? I would have loved to be home and eat home food, some kati kati. So please, if we are out in these countries where there is freedom, we must be honest with ourselves. Before some of us, or some of you, got the nationality of the countries where you find yourself, you need to do, the history of that country and write a test, a nationality test. And most often you would do those tests and read about the history, the liberation struggle of the country, particularly the USA, Great Britain, and so on. So all these peoples have gone through their own liberation struggles, and they are now a free and democratic country. This is the time Ambazonia is going through hers. And tomorrow, Ambazonia will be the pride of the world. It will be the pride of Africa. So why not pay that price? Freedom is not free. You are living in a free country, and blood was shed to gain this freedom. So to me, it is hypocrisy. I find it hard to think that some people are simply naive. It is hypocrisy. That's why I'm appealing to your consciences. Stand up. All of you, many of us are churchgoers. We pray to God. And please, God is not different. What we're doing in Ambazonia is a godly cause. This is how I see it. A lot of people say, pay tithes, do this, do that. To me, this is my own tithes I'm paying, because I feel like it is a call that God has placed upon this generation to complete. So we are begging everybody, again, begging you, because yes, we need your help. The numbers would ease the load on the few people that have been carrying this load. And trust me, it is heavy. It is not just sleepless nights with endless meetings. It is constant contribution financially, emotionally, and otherwise. The more hands we get, the work will be lighter. So please
All
take
right.
this as your tithes for 2000 or 2021. Thank
All
you.
right. Dr. Yaya, you're gonna sit in there, stay put. I am now being joined by the chairman for Bui County, Shea Yimbo himself. Hello, Mr. Chairman, sir.
Hello, Secretary Chris. I'm barely hearing you. I didn't get the question, but I am in the show right now.
Yes, sir. I can hear you 5 on 5. Can you hear me now?
10 on 10, Secretary.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. I know because of work schedule you couldn't make it live here on ABC. But tell us, many people out there want to know. They want to know what are your expectations for Saturday? All the routes that lead to Bui on Saturday. What are your expectations, sir?
Oh, I have very, very high expectations, Secretary Chris. And it is because Bui trusts Ambazonia. We are one people. And so I know that Ambazonia is going to come out big. Bui is going to come out big. We want everybody to come out, and draft to get us free, draft to get us a homeland, draft to get us a peaceful place, draft to get us back from Nigeria as refugees, draft to get us from every other country as refugees, and even in La Republic as internally displaced. We are expecting that everybody is going to come out here very, very powerful and determined. We are a determined people, and I do not at any moment have doubts about the people of Bui, have doubts about the people of Ambazonia. Thank you, Secretary.
Wonderful. I was saying here to Dr. Yaya that last year Bui drafted, I think, a little over $80,000. I do not know what the redemption rate was, but I believe you are looking for, what you have been able to achieve out there with what the meager sum you realized last year. Ambazonians see it. What special message as the chairman do you have for supporters of Bui warriors and Bui people in general?
I am telling all friends and well-wishers of Bui. First of all, I will want to thank you. Thank you so very much for standing up to tell the enemy that there is no way that a part of Ambazonia is going to get sick. Ambazonia is one tree, and if one branch is broken, then that tree is incomplete. Well-wishers of Bui and Ambazonians all came out and said, yes, we are together, we are one, and if one falls, then everybody falls. If one rises, everybody rises. And we saw this. Ambazonia came out and said, we will stand. I am still very, very sure that if they did that last year, there is no doubt that they are going to do it again this time and even do it better. I'm calling on all sons and daughters of Bui. Please wake up from your slumber if you were still sleeping. The tides are high, times are hard. We need everybody on board in order to deliver this final punch. We were not born to be fighting people. We were not born to fight wars. We were born free, and everywhere man is born free. But I hear it said he lives in bondage, he lives in chains. But we are saying that as a free people of God, God's creation, we want to be free, we will be free, and we must be free. I am saying that looking at everything, I do believe that we are one people, one cause, one faith, one destiny, one for all for one. Ambazonia, I trust you. Bui, I trust you. Thank you, Secretary. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I let you go, I know people out here, they are wondering if somebody wanted to drive to the county at this moment, how do they contact, how do they make that payment?
If they wanted to draft to the county at this moment, there are the payment options for the county. And if they cannot meet, if they cannot find the payment options, and I know the payment options are there in various fora and so on, contact the executive, contact the chairman, contact the treasurer, contact Dr. Yaya, contact everybody. Or if not, why not pay into the National Treasury of Amazonia? Bui County has a sub-account in that treasury. And Bui County has been using that sub-account and without any problems. So there are if anybody really wanted to pay or to draft right now, they should be able to do that without any problems using all these various means, Secretary.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before I let you go, any last thing that you would like to stress about here?
Secretary, they say that the Bui man does not go somewhere and will not speak, in the vernacular. Bui as a county has at least, let's say, 3 vernaculars, so if you want to say the big ones. But I will here speak in Lamso, and I'm to tell you in Bui, almost everybody understands Lamso, and therefore I would like to talk to the people in Lamso, if you would permit me.
Yes, briefly, please. Go on.
We are Bui. Hey, Bui Bema, so them. One so. One bed Rekwa. One bed Yekimbo. One bed Kum. One bed Noni. One bed Ku. Beku. One bed Biami. Bui. Given. Then lo you for money. Nanin you suji I buy. Ena. Wa fon besene yo lo bi mi kwan. Yambing lo yo lo bi mi kwan. Dr. Fondo ni yo lo bi mi kwan. Ukati wo anga be bani. Suji aya. Ai. Besen kira for drop sen sen wo. Ama tia besen. Ki wa de lenji sen sifun na de re. Wo na kel gra kia de sho. Yi wo mo sen Jila Ayason, Masuya Jaya, Ena, Basana yo why in back assumption. We yo in back assumption. Then one and in a youth. Jim, Suya Jabai, Aya, Gong Siang. Then think to do. Tim with them. If some boat Warren Benji, work a fucking show. Sweet Benjabai, and we take a bushy. Saturday. Oh, she you there. When we were here. If some team bends with your bites and what doesn't want me. Soon me now want to have a level. So an instant Benja by Suja by work for one for it to an innocent Wabam. Where the people come? Aya, don't you doctor taking your money? Don't you doctor taking your money? How about you from beach? Suya Jena, the bushes are bushy Loran. If the not the Benji will gun Boni Benim, Iabuni la Ben Loyu. Loyu Benji, Abai, Yaran the Yaranina. It Abuni love Loyu Yanan the Yaranina. The one. For Ba, Mammy, Abuni la Benji, Loyu la Yana, Ilayo Tongi lava. Loyu Benji la Yanam Mamma, Kim Kita the car. So you occupant some yen Ben. I must be Benja by what? I you up again. With them, what are you? None of you. Tima Wimon. Tima Wimon. And why we wire war bomb. And from a war bomb. Okay, we carry. Kindo Shisang, Kindoka, Ibsen Watonin, Wisdom G, Ena, Equabam. Very ben, very one so. Very sort them. Ena. So not black from beach. Ajumar from beach. Now we will lay bomb. Now we ought to lay a bomb. We young lady, Tima Wungaban, Tesha to Dala Lay. You look at the Tima with Tima Wungaban, Dala Lay. And what been key? Lay a more journaling. Some key ganadra, I'm some lingling in womb. Kevin Keith Alofia. I, also your drag with a put another. Are you Yawiri? My Yuri Ben. And Wallo, Tima, you will mourn. I give some what Tira, some Tira, Mensaman Wallingham, very oven, very good, very wind toward them, very ben. Ena, give some what turning to Bushy, the Mandra draft to Bushy, the Saturday. Oh, the she tar, when we will see, May will July. Very ben. Over to you, Secretary.
Okay, thank you for joining the broadcast, sir. I want to believe that this weekend will be fabulous for Bui and Bui warriors in particular. Thank you for joining me. All right, Dr. Yaya, quickly tell us, do we have payment information out there for Bui? You can just go ahead and read it if you have it. If not, I want to believe that before Saturday, that information should be out there for everybody to know.
Yes, Secretary Chris, we do actually, and they've been circulating on some of our trusted fora. I've just forwarded them to you. I guess the reason we're being guided by a resource mobilization team, a very professional team that is actually giving every county some great support before the draft. We had a meeting with them. I think one of the concerns they had is, and it's one of the problems we encountered last year, is that we had some unscrupulous individuals or people who falsified some of the account details and probably siphoned some donations into the wrong account. So these accounts don't want, the idea was not to publicize them too early. But again, if anyone really wants to donate, you've got access to so many people. You can reach myself, Secretary Chris, the chairman. There's so many ways to reach one of those who will be able to help you. So this happened last time. People used the same advert, but they just changed the account details. So please be vigilant. If you have any questions, contact the number of the chairman or the treasurer or the financial secretary, just to be sure that the money is going into the right place. However, Secretary Chris, if there are people asking to have that account, I've just forwarded them to you. Feel free to share them.
All right. Thank you.
They can
Thank you for. Thank you for that information. Ladies and gentlemen, I just like to read the schedule that we have here for this 2021 draft. Bui is coming up on Saturday, July the 3rd, and that will be broadcast live right here at ABC. And then after Bui, on July 10 will be the turn of Manu. July 10 will be Manu. And then after Manu, on the July 17 will be the turn of Ngo Ketunjia, talking about the Marines of Field Marshal No PT. And then after Ngo Ketunjia on July 17, the next one will be July the 24th. July the 24th, talking about Le BLM with Field Marshal the King. And then after July 24th, we have July 31 with KMC. Hey, yeah, remind me, which one is KMC? Is it Dongamantu?
No,
which one?
Coupe Manenguba.
Coupe Maniguba. They abbreviated. I didn't know what that means. Okay. So the fifth on the line here is Coupe Maniguba on July 31st. I will leave it there. While as the thing progresses, we'll bring you the rest of the calendar. But just take note, the first 5 years are Bui on Saturday, Manu July 10, Ngo Ketunjia July 17, Le BLM July 24, and Coupe Maniguba July 31. July 31. All right, Dr. Yaya, I would like you to stay put in there, and I will now go get to my monologue for the day. I am talking about the expose on how La République du Cameroon is destroying the CDC. I will be joined, ladies and gentlemen, by Barrister Timothy Mbesa after I do the presentation. I will also be joined by Dr. Christopher Atang, one of our patrons that you have not seen on ABC, but he will be joining me after the presentation to do some analysis on the talking point, the destruction of the CDC, the destruction of the CDC. So I will now again bring you the presentation, the monologue, of course, the talking point. And of course, I title it, What They Never Told You, or What You Never Knew about the CDC, what you never knew about the CDC. And these are revelations, ladies and gentlemen. In this presentation, I would like us to take a look at the Cameroon Development Corporation, the CDC, how the once lucrative giant agro-industry rose to fame under the government of the Southern Cameroons, but then advertently collapsed under the two Yaoundé regimes, beginning with Amadou Ahidjo's. Some apologies of the Yaoundé regime have been misled into thinking that because of the name Cameroon in CDC, La République du Cameroon has something to do with the founding or establishment of the company. This is far from the truth. La République du Cameroon has absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with the founding of CDC. In fact, at the time that CDC was established in 1947 as the largest agro-industry in the West and Central African regions, East Cameroon, or French Cameroon, was still a United Nations protectorate under France, and the Southern Cameroon was a United Nations protectorate under Britain. France had absolutely nothing to do with the Southern Cameroons, and Britain had absolutely nothing to do with East Cameroon. It was only after 1966 when Ahidjo started his annexationist and assimilation agenda, which led to the closure of Victoria Seaport and Tico Wharf, that the CDC was forced to start using Douala Seaport to ship its goods overseas. Even then, the management of CDC was still not politicized, and it was using West Cameroon banks, which was simply called the Cameroon Bank, for its financial transactions. The management of CDC was independent and only produced annual reports to the government of Southern Cameroon, and profit margins were allocated such that the company would keep some portion as reserves in the bank and then deposit the remainder in the Southern Cameroon's treasury. Even after the misguided referendum of 1972, CDC was still operating as an independent parastatal corporation. In fact, evidence that CDC had a very strong financial standing was that about 80% of the funds used to build the Mondone oil mill were from CDC's reserves. This was shocking to the Ahidjo regime. After the 1972 referendum, the full annexation and assimilation of AMBAZONIA began. And as the Ahidjo regime saw for the first time how lucrative CDC was, on September 28, 1973, he signed a decree organizing the management of CDC, which led to a heavy influx of citizens of French Cameroon, La République du Cameroun, talking about bazaars and wonders at the CDC estate manager level. This was unusual and troubling because the Francophones had no experience in the management of plantations, even as private entrepreneurs, and an overwhelming majority of them could not express themselves. They couldn't speak English, not at all. In fact, France never established plantations in East Cameroon during the colonial era. As it later turned out, the Francophones did not come in only to earn salaries, but to clandestinely assess CDC's financial standing. They were secretly submitting records to their Ministry of Finance in Yaoundé, according to documents that have never been made public. The Francophones, they quickly realized that as long as Cameroon Bank handled CDC's finances, it will be difficult for the Ahidjo regime to lay hands on the company's huge resources. What the Ahidjo regime discerned was that CDC could be crippled simply by bringing down Cameroon Bank. Remember that the whole idea of destroying institutions inside the Southern Cameroons was embedded in the annexationist and assimilationist agenda, which Paul Biya admitted as recently as November 13, 2019, when he spoke with Mo Ibrahim during a Paris press conference. On January 22nd, 1982, just a few months before Ahidjo handed over, he signed another decree whereby CDC will be reporting its finances, but to the Republic's Minister of Finance and its operations to the Minister of Agriculture, all based in Yaoundé, of course. By the time Paul Biya came in as president in November 1982, the groundwork was already laid for the crippling of CDC. What the Biya regime did was that top Betis and high-ranking members of his cabinet, including his late wife, Jean Irene Biya, they were allowed to borrow massively from the Cameroon Bank without any collateral security, and then deliberately defaulted. Deliberate default means that the borrowers refuse to pay back their loans, and nothing can be done since the loans were acquired without any collateral. Because they had the intent to default, and it was a well-calculated plan to bring down the bank, and I mean Cameroon Bank, they did not sign off property that could be confiscated or seized and sold to recover their debts. At that time, Cameroon Bank was now reporting back to their Minister of Finance in Yaoundé, who got his own cut and refused to pursue the matter in court. As Cameroon Bank collapsed in 1986-87, CDC's huge reserves disappeared. To make matters worse, in addition to losing its huge reserves, CDC was compelled to conduct its financial transactions at BISIC, which is now called BISEC, which was fully in the hands of the Minister of Finance, of course, in Yaoundé. CDC's finances were now in the hands of the Biya regime, and the looting accelerated. By 1996, CDC was micromanaged entirely from Yaoundé, a situation that remains today. It was Yaoundé, ladies and gentlemen, that started dictating how CDC could use its funds. Remember that BISIC Bank was largely a government-owned bank, so the minister, their minister, had access to CDC financial records, which was not the case in the days of the Cameroon Bank and the Southern Cameroon government. Because CDC manager was treated as a political appointee and not as an independent administrator of a corporation, the backlash was devastating. Out of a sudden, CDC had to get permission from the Minister of Finance to use its own money. The CDC manager and his immediate top associate could not raise an alarm, as the Minister of Finance occasionally withdrew some of CDC's reserves at BISIC Bank and did so with instructions from the presidency. According to confidential information, which late John Niba-Ngu, former general manager at the time, complained that CDC will collapse should government maintain its level of interference in managing the company. What happened was John Niba-Ngu was removed and made Minister of Agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a ploy to make it look as if John Niba-Ngu was being promoted. It was a funny promotion, a ploy to remove and silence him because he did not stay as Minister of Agriculture past 18 months and was sent on retirement and made a CPDM campaign stooge, as is the case with several other native Ambazonians in that country. Due to the lack of funding, CDC's aging fleet of trucks that transported crops from the field to storage facilities and or processing facilities were put out of circulation and could not be replaced. Instead, CDC was ordered to rent trucks supplied by Betty owners who were relatives of the Betty bosses in Yaoundé. Of course, the cost of renting the trucks was almost double the cost when CDC owned its own trucks. The losses incurred by CDC started piling. The company moved from being a very successful and lucrative corporation with huge financial reserves to a battered institution, festered with corrupt practices and heavy debt. By the late 1990s, talks about privatization, they surfaced and intensified, but no credible investors showed interest. Also, there was talk about transferring CDC headquarters from Volta to Yaoundé. At that point, we still had some genuine backward chiefs and elite who complained bitterly, and let it be known that the relocation of CDC headquarters from Volta will compel them to order CDC to vacate their land because they never paid for the land they occupy. It was only such intervention from the chiefs that prevented the relocation of CDC headquarters. Even though CDC headquarters stayed in Volta, the Yaoundé regime still continued the micromanagement of the company, politicizing of the appointment of top-level managers and members of the board of directors. As years went by, CDC's problems multiplied. Plantation workers were not getting paid, and at times were owed up to 22 months of wages. And those who retired were not getting their pensions, and the situation persists even today. At the same time that these genuine workers were not getting paid, Berties and Bassars, who were brought in at the estate manager level, were collecting their humongous salaries. Plantations, such as oil palm plantations that had aged and were no longer productive, could not be replaced and were simply abandoned. Some CDC camps simply shut down, as retired workforce could not be replaced either. At one point, the Biya regime announced that CDC was talking to French, Moroccan, and Egyptian investors as part of the privatization scheme, but that too never materialized. Fast forward to January 19, 2016, when Paul Biya signed a presidential decree number 2016/031, which transformed CDC into a public utility corporation, with la République du Cameroon as the sole owner of all shares. According to the decree, stipulations regarding the administrative setup and management of CDC can only be amended after 99 years. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you heard me, after 99 years. It was after that decree that the board of directors of CDC was reorganized. Now, please give me your ears. Listen to me very, very attentively. There are 14 board members for CDC. 11 of them are Berties, some of whom have never crossed the Mongol into Ambazonia. But the most vexing aspect of this colonialist oversight, ladies and gentlemen, over CDC is that whereas plantation workers are not getting paid and retirees are not getting their pensions, These board members are getting their 2.5 million monthly stipends for doing nothing. Former Minister of Mines and Power, the late Henry Namata Elangwe, was a long tenure board chair, and due to poor health, through a presidential decree, he retired and was succeeded by chaotic and pompous former Minister of Justice, Benjamin Eto'o. Because Eto'o was a staunch campaign manager for the CPD and party in Meme County, he overstepped his bounds and became a power broker who constantly clashed with and belittled the CDC manager. According to information gathered from credible sources, during a board meeting in December 2020, Benjamin Eto'o asked all non-board members to vacate the hall. When they left, he read out to the audience a litany of grievances and allegations against the general manager, ranging from mismanagement of staff, alleged misuse of funds, to usurping the powers of the board, and outright disobedience to the board chair. At the end of the statement, as board members remained stern and silent due to the level of heinous political assassination, the general manager asked if he could reply to some of the accusations from Benjamin Eto'o. But Benjamin Eto'o refused to allow him to speak, which is typical La République du Cameroon style of domination. According to confidential information, weeks after the board meeting, the general manager and some of his collaborators were summoned to appear for interrogation before the Special Criminal Court in La République du Cameroon. That summon came one day, just one day, after a mission to CDC in December 2020 by a team of Yaoundé auditors. The charges brought against the CDC team include misappropriation of public funds to the tune of CFA 10 billion francs, which was money from the European Union to grow bananas, mismanagement of CDC land, alleged theft of palm oil. It looks as if at some point Benjamin Eto'o's shenanigans and political grandstanding became too much for his Yaoundé bosses, and he was unceremoniously sacked and replaced with Hope Sona Ebai, appointed through a presidential decree, of course. Sona Ebai was installed as board chair on Thursday, May 27 this year, during an extraordinary CDC board meeting which took place in Yaoundé, not in Bota, under the chair of their Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Make no mistake, again, make no mistake, Hope Sona Ebai has an excellent academic background and experience, but his appointment of CDC board chair does not change anything, unfortunately. First and foremost, the board meeting and its installation took place in Yaoundé, and not in Bota, Victoria. Hope Sona Ebai will be the board chair. There will be the CDC manager, and both of them are answerable but to Yaoundé. They cannot make independent decisions, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to me. Listen to the sound of my voice. CDC is one of the reasons for which we fight. No matter La République du Cameroon's shenanigans regarding CDC, once AMBAZONIA is free, and we get to Boya, CDC shall be restructured to operate the way it did during the good old days. CDC shall be managed by competent and non-political appointees. A selection committee shall advertise positions, receive applications, interview and select candidates for various positions. That is how it is done in democratic societies. Now, let us look at this question. And the question has been, why is La République du Cameroon Parliament and Senate not discussing the conflict? Or better put, should La République du Cameroon Parliament and Senate discuss this conflict? This is a very important question that comes up very regularly. The answer is obvious. Absolutely not. And I tell you why. So far, La République legislature has refused to debate the matter. And this is one of the rare issues or moments that we Ambazonians agree with them 100%. 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, with the exception of Western countries that are superpowers, with veto power at the United Nations, including Germany and Canada, it is rare, very rare for one country to be discussing another country in their legislature. The last time that I checked, La République du Cameroon is one of the poorest and most primitive countries on earth. Within the next 200 years in a minute, it will not come close to being a developed country, let alone a superpower. Ambazonia is one of La République du Cameroon's neighbors, which include Nigeria, Chad, Central African Republic, Congo-Brazzaville, Gabon, and Equatorial Guinea. On any given issue, talks between La République du Cameroon and its neighbors are bilateral, country to country, or multilateral, and not something that is debated by La République du Cameroon's Parliament and Senate. Not at all. That too must apply to any form of talks between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. The Ambazonia issue conflict is not something that should be debated at their Parliament and Senate, because it is a matter between two countries. Evidence that Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon are two neighboring countries are as follows. Number one, La République du Cameroon gained its independence January 1st, 1960, and later was admitted as a member of the United Nations in September 1960. At that time, Southern Cameroon was still under British colonial rule. Number two, Southern Cameroon gained its independence on October 1st, 1961. So much has been made about the Fumban Conference of 1961. But the truth of the matter is that nothing came out of that conference. No legally binding agreement was signed by both parties. To date, the Yaoundé regime cannot show any legal document with a clause that binds Ambazonia and that country as one country. Not even Ambazonia can prove it either. Number three, the boundaries between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon are demarcated. They are demarcated and internationally recognized too. Even as we speak, all entrance points between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon have custom posts, ladies and gentlemen. They all have custom posts. Countries do not have custom posts within their territory. Custom posts are located at points of entry between the countries, which is clearly the case between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. Number 4, one provision of the Covenant of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, is that no African country should extend its boundaries beyond what they were at the time of independence. At the time of independence, Southern Cameroon was not part of La République du Cameroon. I can go on, and I can go on and on. The truth of the matter is that Ambazonia is not part of La République du Cameroon, which is why the conflict between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon can only be settled through internationally mediated negotiations at a neutral venue and not within La République du Cameroon's legislature. Of course not. We have gone past that moment. In addition to Ambazonia's Never Again generation that was born in October 2016, Ambazonians came out massively on September 22nd, 2017 to manifest their irrevocable support for the right to self-determination. And again on October 1st, 2017 to celebrate Independence Day. There is absolutely nothing that can change the fact that Ambazonians want to live free in their own country. It is not up to La République du Cameroon or France to make that determination. That determination has already been made. Therefore, it is irrelevant for La République du Cameroon's legislature to want to discuss something that is out of their jurisdiction. What we Ambazonians are waiting for is for La République du Cameroon to show up at the Swiss talks endorsed by the international community. Anything else is a waste of time because it is Ambazonia's statehood or resistance forever. Fellow Ambazonians, have you all realized something strange with the deals? Listen to me. With all the deals, the contract arrangements that La République du Cameroon is putting in place regarding matters related to Ambazonia? Listen to me. Those contracts or deals always have a lifespan of 99 years. The current CDC management arrangement can only be amended after 99 years. The oil deals that the Yaoundé regime signed with British companies have a lifespan of 99 years. The decree that set up the laws regarding the operation of the Victoria Seaport can only be changed after 99 years. Confidential information provided by secret informants to us who request anonymity reveal that changes to the manner in which Sonora is administered were designed to last for 99 years too. This is absolute mortgaging of Ambazonia and totally unacceptable. These arrangements shall be scrapped after we get to Boya. Remember, America had to end slavery, not by choice, but because it became untenable. God bless you and thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen. I now bring you my panelists here. I am joined again by Barrister Timothy B. Sir, who will be coming in to do some analysis here I'm also joined by Dr. Christopher Atang, who is one of the veteran, ladies and gentlemen, in this Ambazonian struggle. And of course, Dr. Yaya is still here to contribute to the discussion. Let me start with Dr. Atang. It's a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Atang. I've been trying to get you here on ABC to no avail. It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you, Secretary Chris.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to be here.
I am again very excited to have you because you are one of the veterans in this struggle for the self-actualization of the independence of Ambazonia. You have been there forever, and let me also note that you are the leader of the Southern Cameroon's movement, CAM. Thank you for joining me. Pa Atang, I would like you to, as I said, you have been here forever. I'd like you to, after listening to my talking point out there, you grew up watching the benefits that CDC was to the Southern Cameroons. Do we still see those benefits coming from CDC after La République du Cameroon took it over?
Well, Secretary Chris, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with you in this program. Before I answer that question, I would like to thank Yaya, Dr. Yaya, and the chairman of the BOI LGA for their very good presentations. Their presentation reminds me of Dr. Fonlon when he came back from Fumban and wanted to gather Anglophones in his house in Yaoundé to discuss the sham conference in Fumban. And as usual, the forces of law and disorder blocked people from going to his house. So when Dr. Yaya and the chairman of the LG were talking, my mind went there straight that another great son of Boi spearheaded this struggle, and we've taken from there. Now, Secretary Chris, before I go to the CDC, you've covered it so well, I don't know what you want me to say again. We've lost a lot from the CDC. They used to organize hospitals, schools, railway lines for the CDC, and now you've taken the leadership of this organization and given it to people who know nothing about how to manage their own houses, to manage CDC. You would realize that in those days, CDC had well-trained indigenous Southern Cameroonians as the general manager. They took care of the camp. Pensions were paid when due, not like today where people just have thieves in Yaoundé stealing money for doing nothing. Then going to CDC, Secretary Chris, I'd like to propose now henceforth, let's not call it CDC again, it's ADC, Ambazonia Development Corporation.
Correct.
Let's put that name, Cameroon Development Corporation, and claim it before we go to modify it when the time comes. Because believe me, as you say, Chris, we are going to change it and bring the CDC back to what it was in those days. Now, we are fighting, and I want to thank our restoration forces, first of all, because they're fighting for us to have power, to live as people who know what they want. They are fighting for us to have our self-determination. They are fighting for us to live truthful lives. So my prayer is that we would forget about some of these terrible habits we've acquired from La République of Cameroon, bribery, corruption. A policeman will not do his work until he is bribed. I think the transitional government should put in place methods of retraining Cameroonians. And the curriculum we had in our elementary schools in those days, or in our educational system in those days, would come back. It's very good because they taught us honesty, religious knowledge in schools, traditional dances, to be proud of your tradition and things like that. So this would come to change the mentality of the people, knowing that you don't take what that doesn't belong to you, and if that's stealing. So when we look at CDC again, they gave scholarships to people to go and study, not only the children of those who are, but any Southern Cameroonian who qualified enjoyed this benefit. And we had their managers sent abroad to be trained. Even if they go, it means going to Singapore to learn how to manage the palm nuts, which they took from us, went and developed a better breed for us to go and get the seedlings from them to come and establish in Cameroon. They were all indigenous Southern Cameroonians who did these things. And unfortunately, you bring in managers who cannot communicate in the language spoken by the majority of the people around, or the majority of the workers. We talk about this evolution for the past 33 years, when this Cameroon Anglophone movement was formed. It was like a clandestine organization, having nocturnal meetings. We outsmarted the gendarmes in Boya because the meetings took place in the headquarters of SCAM in Boya, which was my house, and that's where we prepared for the first and the second all Anglophone conferences, which were very successful. And the one in Boya, we asked for federation. Our lawyers even drafted a constitution. And you also become one of those who was selected to go to Yaoundé. But we went, and the minister or owner put it in his dustbin.
All right, we will talk about that on another occasion, but let me get to Barrister Mbisa. Barrister Mbisa, I just put on the screen there the office headquarters of the CDC. Now, there you have it again. That is the structure, the headquarters of the CDC. This is an organization that is as old as, older than La République du Cameroon and than Southern Cameroons. This is its headquarters. What does it tell you, sir, Barrister Mbisa?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for bringing me in. So much is, yes, what up there is the structure, the building called the head office. But many people don't know there's nothing going on in that building. The CDC is an agro-industrial complex. They grow bananas, they grow palm oil, they grow everything and ship it out. Their most powerful office, after they are not restructured to Douala only, is in Douala. What they have in Douala is the shipping, which is more powerful than what you have in Limbe. So they have the shipping office in Douala. Their transactions go on, where they are shipping goods to whatever part of the world. It is done in Douala. And that is one purpose. So that's whatever thing comes in, if they have any tax, they pay it Douala first. Because that's where the final transaction or shipment takes place. That said, that is what I can say about the structure called the head office. But let me address the issue that you have raised, some of the issues that were about the CDC. Yes, the CDC was created in 1947. But many people do not know. In 1947, that thing was not called the Cameroon Development Corporation. It was called CDC, but it stood for Commonwealth Development Corporation. It was not Cameroon Development Corporation, it was Commonwealth Development Corporation. Because it had a duty, it had an assignment to develop the Commonwealth. And for that purpose, they were allowed, and they did, in fact, run schools. You had CDC schools. They ran hospitals. What you have today in Bota called Bota Annex, that was a CDC hospital. They had one in Mokonje and other places. Fast forward, the process that were coming out of that thing used for the development of the area, which is southern Cameroon. For example, at the time, the government did not run schools as it is done today. There was a government school in Boya, there was a government school in Kumba, there was a government school in Mamfe, there was a government school in Bamenda. At the end of the year, they shared the proceeds, and most of them, a good number of these things were shared to develop these particular schools called government schools. So that was a role assigned to the CDC, which it performed until it became CDC, West Government Corporation, after so called in 1961. Let us pull back a bit. What did the CDC even stand for? How was it? The CDC was a collection of farms, Germans. The farms, the Germans who had they call it at the time, and set up their accounts and set up their farms. And then they were registered in the German land registry. So they took those things, created their own small plantations. But in 1945, when they had to leave, they left those things. So the government said, well, let us use all these plantations to set up something which is called body, where everybody will get the benefit out of it. So they put the nation of plantations and created what they called the Commonwealth Development Corporation, which was called CDC. Later in 1997, they were based in Fako, what we call Fako today, which was Victoria Division. Down the road, they acquired other lands and expanded places. But that was the beginning. Fast forward again. How did the CDC get killed? You mentioned Johnny Bangu. Bangu was the first Cameroonian general manager of the CDC. But how did he get there? Johnny Bangu, in 1961, when the white people were leaving, he was the first accountant. He was the first accountant of the CDC. And so he got promoted from the position of chief accountant to the position of general manager. So that's how Johnny Bangu became the general manager. Again, you remember there was always something called the Bakwe land claims. Who were laying claim, the Bakwe people lay claim to the lands in the CDC. In order to defeat the Bakwe land claims, government had to do something. It needed somebody aside who helped them defeat that case and allow them to surrender this, take over the CDC. And they found a willing agent in the name of Peter Mosonge. Peter Mosonge was the director of Labogenie. He's a construction engineer. Engineering skills got to do with farmers. So they brought in Peter Mosonge as the general manager to replace Johnny Bangu and moved Johnny Bangu to the Ministry of Agriculture. Of course, Johnny Bangu had become a member of the CNU, CPDM, and those sort of clubs. But they brought in Peter Mosonge from Labogenie, who was a construction engineer, to head that company first. I hear he used to go play golf with Bob here. First, to defeat the so-called Bakwe land claims, and secondly, to give them the opportunity to exploit the CDC to transform it the way they wished. That is what happened, and that's where it moved forward. Let me address one thing you talked of. They wanted to privatize, but the idea was to steal out of it. Was actually to sell the thing to themselves and their supporters. At least we can remember, all of us who are old enough will remember they were called Toliti. Toliti SA is just behind Boya there. What did they do? They wanted to sell Toliti. But they didn't want to sell it for money, they wanted it themselves. And so, prior to the privatization of Toliti, they did not export tea for more than 6 months, between 6 months and 1 year. Nothing was exported. It was kept in warehouses. And so, they fell on a certain guy called Dampulu, all of us know Dampulu, to whom they handed Tolly tea for a symbolic price of $1. What did this guy do? He floated a company, a fraudulent company, which was purported to be registered in South Africa. And so, he took, the company was given to him, he took the tea, estate of Tolly, that was the main one, and then given to him. Tier 2, the tea is no longer there. Our mothers and fathers who worked there, they used to contribute to social insurance. They didn't, Dampulu did not pay anybody. So the poor women started asking for their money. Even more than they were lodging and camping in the labor office in Boya. Government drove them away. In order to send them away and to silence them for all, Dampulu got bulldozers, went down to Tolly, go to Nancy, and bulldozed the camp that was there. The women had nowhere to go. They left to the different houses, to the different villages. Most of them who were very old or even young, they are dead. Dampulu paid nothing for that thing. And what happened to Dampulu? John Bangu, who knew the value of the thing, turned to Dampulu and said, "Look, you see, I'm the one who negotiated this deal with the government, because the Ministry of Agriculture was the tutorial ministry for the CDC. So he said, look, this thing, so you have the money." Dampulu said, "No, he contributed nothing. What's your contribution?" He said he negotiated the deal with the government to take the CDC. Well, that is not contribution. So they went to court, and John Bangu lost and died. Today I will speak. The Toliti, what used to be Toliti, is being right now, is being passed out into blood. But Dampulu is in camp. He can. So that is part of the story of the CDC. The other part that you narrated are all perfect. I don't need to go back repeating it again. That's the hidden story behind the CDC.
Thank you. I am very sorry because there is a meeting that I have to rush into. Barrister Besa, I know you should be there too. And so we are going to end this short. But before we do that, I will give you the rounds to just say something about, because of these discussions in French Cameroon about their parliament finally discussing, debating this conflict after 5 years. Let me start with Dr. Yaya there. What is your take on that, Dr. Yaya? For 5 years, they refused to talk about it. Even where Honorable Weber begged and pleaded and banged his hands on the table, they refused to listen to him, but now they are discussing it. What is your take on that?
Well, Secretary Chris, before you go to that point, well, I'll just have a simple answer. Those are the kicks of a dying horse, and I'm not going to concentrate much on that topic. I just want to use this opportunity to thank my co-panelists. I'm very honored to be surrounded by such great men of honor. We're so blessed to have them. We've learned so much this evening, just listening to their life experiences. Some of us grew up listening to our parents complain about these things. In fact, when Dr. Atang spoke, it just reminded me of the pictures, those very vivid memories when we were small, how, we used to use the traditional meetings in Yaoundé as you know, sort of a backdoor means for parents to discuss the issues. Even as a child, you know, they used to gather at Dr. Fonlon's place, and you could sense, even as a child, that there was something wrong. You saw the elites or the you know,
The
our
elders.
parents actually discussing something worrisome, and this is where the whole activism, or if I may call it, my being active in this struggle, it stems from there. Those are the roots. So, Ambazonia, what else do we know? Listening to these great men who have spilled it all out to us, you know, those are life experiences that they witnessed, and we are blessed to hear this from them. What else? What would be the reason? Look at what we had and compared to what we have now. You know, we're just living in shackles. We are slaves. So, do we want to be in this perpetual state of slavery, or do we want to go back to a life of dignity that we all deserve? So, to me, if you still are on the fence and you've listened to these two great men and to Secretary Chris' analysis, you know, at least some of us heard those names. We saw them, you know, Nebango and the rest. And you're still doubting, then I really wonder. Please get on board. Ambazonia will be the pride of the world, I believe. So be a part of this, be on the good side of history, and don't be left out. Yes, we can give ignorance a chance and say maybe you do not know, but tonight, from this day, go back and listen and watch this program again. If you're still on the fence, then I really wonder. So thank you, Amazonia. Come on July the 3rd and draft for Bui. You're not just drafting for Bui, draft for Amazonia. Pat Hassan, who is in prison, has drafted. He actually launched the draft for Bui. If a prisoner can do that, you, a free man, what should you do? If he can do that, then we must. So please come out in your numbers, invite friends, invite sympathizers. This is a just cause, be part of history. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Atang, does La République du Cameroon's parliament still have any legitimacy discussing a conflict between Ambazonia and that country?
They have nothing to do with us. But before I make my comments, I want to appreciate what Honorable Weber did. He made history for us by telling the people front that even if they get the French army, they will not defeat the Ambazonians. So I drove my heart to Honorable Weber. He gave us the courage to stand and talk more. If this is my closing remark, I would say I would like to encourage fellow Ambazonians that we are on the right track. The international world is looking at us now favorably. We have a just case. Although some people come and tell you that the resolutions of the United Nations don't mean anything, that's the crux of the matter. They have to answer those two resolutions which they mishandled and put us in the right track so that we can have we can enjoy the independence, not independence by joining. I mean, that was the most stupid thing to do, to say people should have their independence by joining. Join us nullified the independence. So I think I want to seize this opportunity to thank our ground zero soldiers. Hang in there. We know that it's difficult. You big sacrifice. You're not in your homes. You're doing it for the good of Ambazonia. We shall all meet in Boya one day and celebrate. As I always say, one Ambazonia, one nation. Let's fight for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atang. Barrister Besa, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to me last. This program, before I always make a remark. Many of us don't understand. Yes, Mr. Weber cried out his lungs for them to talk the issue of West Cameroon. But they have nothing to talk. They are not even allowed to talk. You see, we made the mistake when we are here. We think that what they call parliament is like a parliament in England or a parliament or Congress in the United States or somewhere else. No, that's not the thing. Current parliament has a very limited function that it plays in the life of the country. It plays only two roles in Article 14. It legislates, one, or controls government action. Until government does something, then can it act. So what Mr. Weber was asking for was not legislation. Not what I can call off-license talk. Sit there in the off-license voice, say what you want to say, that's our issue. And so what? They are not passed legislation on it. They are not allowed to do it by their own constitution. The current parliament limited functions defined in Article 20 of the own constitution can do. It does not include the crisis that we have there in Amazonia. If we include, we will only deal with the issue of human rights. We don't expect Parliament to indict their own government for violating human rights. So they have nothing, and they could not even discuss on it. Forward again. Even if they wanted to discuss it, Cameroon constitution does not allow them to do anything on their own. Article 18 of the own constitution says they only deal on what government gives them. There's some limited room for what they call private member bills, if there was a member bill. It says in Article 18.5 that if there was no bill, has determined, and so that thing has no priority for any discussion. So it stopped. So we don't even know what they were going to discuss, if they had anything to discuss. So they have not discussed anything, they had nothing to discuss. Again, for our brothers and sisters who are in Parliament, call it Senate order, they had only two options they wanted to be relevant, and they still have them right now. Yes, there are only 35 English-speaking people in the 180 Parliament in Yaoundé. There are only 20 English-speaking senators in the Senate. If the 35 people moved out of that house, even symbolically, and stood out, the 155 others will not continue. That Parliament will shut down. If the 20 English-speaking senators moved out of that nonsense called Senate, the 80 other senators would stop. So unfortunately, they will not do it. But thanks to Weber, he gave us the impetus that we realize where we are. We're helpless. We were helpless until Weber raised our sentiments. And now we took the right path. We have to fight them. And that's the only way you fight it. That's the only way you fight an assimilator. And as a lesson, I would suggest this. Let those people who are doubting cease to doubt. No invade war. You invade the people, you will be defeated. It will take time, you will be defeated. Those of us in the United States, what do we call the Vietnam War? It was an invasion of Vietnam by the United States. with all their arms. They stayed there for years, they never won. What would you say of Afghanistan? It was an invasion of Afghanistan by the United States. They are pulling out. So let Ambazonians be encouraged. We are on the right path. The Wirabas and our fathers and brothers who stood up against it. Give us the impetus. God has given us a new generation. All what we need to do is to fuel the car, fuel the engine with the we have. If we drafted any county, call it Bui, for $100,000, that's looks about a lot of money. That's not much money, but that's big. Because after all, we don't have civil servants to pay. We don't have anything to do. We use it to fight them in our own way until we get to the end of it. So Ambazonians, go draft, For those who cannot afford to draft, pray at least. Pray at least. If you don't have
All
this,
right.
thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Secretary Chris, can I say something?
Yes, please, quickly go on.
Yeah, I'd like to appeal to our leaders, because we've reached a stage now that together we'll do it very easily. If we can all work in a concerted manner and get to Boya, then we'll do our politics afterwards. That would save the revolution a lot. This in-house fighting now is detrimental to our progress, and I just want to say this that on behalf of all the Ambazonians, we are appealing to the current leaders to put their heads together, not fighting and killing their own soldiers. Who do you think would fight for your independence if you kill your own soldiers? So we want to work together, and you may be justified in what you're doing, but wait, we'll go to Boya, we'll get more justification. More grease to your elbows. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Atang. Thank you, Dr. Yaya. Thank you, Barrister Mbe, sir. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't put much time into this subject as I hope, but I want to believe I will come back next time and we will have much more time to spend on it, especially this CDC subject and that of La République du Cameroon's parliament now trying to debate this conflict. But I look forward to coming back here on Monday. In the meantime, remember, every route leads to Bui. Every route leads to Bui on Saturday. On Saturday. Please get ready. Prepare your drive. I can see that here on the social media on Facebook. Payment information for Bui County is posted there. So if you're wondering how you can locate that information, if you're on the social media, even after this show, I believe you go back to ABC Facebook page where we are currently broadcasting, you will still be able to get that information to draft for Bui. Once more, thank you all for tuning in. I look forward to being back here on Sunday. On Sunday. God bless you all.
Push me forward, I see.